I so appreciate you all coming. Bill, for opening, I'd say opening your house, but opening your law office. And for all of you all for contributing. We're ahead of our opponent in every way you can imagine, except in dollars. And when I was coming over, I spent a little time on Facebook. And literally, as we were coming over, I was looking at my Facebook page on my phone, and some out-of-state 527 gave him a $100,000 check today. So I'm real curious about who that was. I'll figure it out when I get home. But you'll see, yeah, it's a liberal, all right. There's one thing you can count on. But we will be outspent in the closing days, but we've got folks, you know, I can't see any of you, but I know Kathy Ferguson's here, you know, making phone calls and roping other people in and knocking on doors. And I can tell you, as someone who's been outspent in 3 Senate campaigns and won all 3 of them, you don't have to outspend the other side. But it does help to be right. It does help to be right. And you know, the other side talks about wanting truth on their side. That isn't where I am. I want to be on the side of truth because it doesn't change, doesn't move. And what we need to be doing is advancing an agenda that reflects the truths that we know, the Founding Fathers know, and they brought forward in this country. Those principles are timeless, and that means they apply as much in 2009 as they did in 1776. And the foundation of every one of my campaigns, and this one is no different, starts with those principles. Protecting the Constitution as it was written, the concept. Protecting life from the moment of conception. Protecting families, Virgil mentioned that in the marriage amendment, that's a big deal. And yes, I really mean it, limited government. That's where that Don't Tread on Me flag comes from. That's the history of that flag back to 1775, before 1776. That's the foundation. And everything I do in public policy is an attempt to be consistent with those principles. Everything I do. Now, the one thing I can guarantee you in the next 4 years if I get elected is I'm going to get something wrong. Or maybe even some things wrong. But when I figure out as best I can what the right position is, what being on the side of truth means in that particular situation, and what standing for those first principles means in the real world, you can count on me to stand right there, come what may. And that's what I've done in the Senate, and I will do it in the Attorney General's office as well. I look Italian, I'm half Irish. I'm not afraid to fight if the cause is right. And I've fought for a lot of them. And the state Senate is not terribly friendly to us conservatives. Never has been. And coming out of Northern Virginia, I'm kind of used to that. I'm the only Republican state senator out of 10 in Northern Virginia. And I'm as conservative a state senator as we've sent to Richmond in my lifetime out of Northern Virginia. And you know, that doesn't change moving from the Senate to the Attorney General's office. The 2 issues that we talk about the most in this race, in past Attorney General races, it was just criminal justice issues. But this year, because of the economy, because of what people see going on in Washington, because they're concerned about government taking over whole industries, whole sections of our economy with the discussion of health care, people see their country going in the wrong direction. Going in the wrong direction. And this is true in Virginia as well. It's true here as well. And so we aren't just talking about criminal justice issues this year. We're also talking about the economy and the government's role in or staying out of, my preferred way to look at it, staying out of the way in the economy. And this is also where we see the mix between state and federal interaction, if you will, under the 10th Amendment. State sovereignty, something we've talked about for the first time in a long while. Well, if they pass something like card check, or they try to eliminate our right to work status here in Virginia, or they try to force collective bargaining rights on our public employees, which is against the law in Virginia, I would expect to go to federal court, sue the federal government under the 10th Amendment to protect Virginia's sovereignty. do that. I can't see him, but I hear Charles laughing. He serves with my opponent. He hasn't even fought with Republicans, much less Democrats. He is not going to fight with his allies. He's not going to do it. Take these same types of bills. He has a 100% voting record with the AFL-CIO. I haven't done as well. I have a 0. Some scorecards you want more like golf than football, and that's one of them. And it's reflected in his campaign. In the July and August finance reports, he had 11 donors of $10,000 or more. 7 of them were unions, including my personal favorite, the New York, New Jersey local of the SEIU. I kid you not. And then in September, some of this stuff is so funny, you wouldn't believe it if it weren't real life. Jimmy Hoffa Jr. announced the Teamsters endorsement for my opponent. I had to read that twice. That was too funny. And they donated to him last month as well. That's who is supporting my opponent. People supporting me are people who haven't been in this process before. If you came to the convention, you saw thousands of people, thousands, who had never participated before. We brought them. We brought them out. And we brought them out on first principles and to protect and preserve those first principles, again, the foundation of my campaign. And those folks have grown. And around Virginia, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to whose first sentence with me was, "I've never been involved before, but," and fill in the blank. It could be any number of things. These folks aren't coming out and saying, "I'm a Republican." Republicans got to earn the trust back of people who believe in limited government. They're not saying they're Democrats, they're not vegetarians, libertarians. They are committed to first principles. And they know their country is on the wrong track. And their Commonwealth is on the wrong track. Robert mentioned eminent domain, property rights, after that Kelo decision 4 years ago. Until the Kelo decision, we all assumed property rights was protected in the Constitution. But that decision effectively wiped out constitutional protection for property rights under the federal Constitution, and it's not in the state Constitution. And the bill Robert told you about, we passed in 2007. It took 3 years of fighting to get that bill. My opponent was on the other side of it every single time. Every single time. But it's just a law. It's just a law. Some later General Assembly can come around and undercut it. A judge can nibble away at it, as has happened over the years with judges. We need to protect that property rights in our Constitution. And as Attorney General, I will push to make property rights a constitutional right once again. Yes. And, it's a good issue. If you want to find one issue that separates the folks in politics who focus on the special interests, and now these folks give a lot of money in Virginia politics. That's why people stay on that side. And the separation with the folks who believe in individual rights, it's property rights. It's property rights. And how important is it? Well, I'll tell you what. In June of 1788, at Virginia's Constitutional Convention, Patrick Henry and George Mason voted against the U.S. Constitution in Virginia's Constitutional Convention. And they did that because it didn't protect property rights and other individual rights. That's how important they thought it was. And as we all take the Constitution for granted today, you know what the vote was in the Virginia Constitutional Convention? 89 to 79. 5 votes swing the other way, and the biggest and most important state in America doesn't support the U.S. Constitution. That's how close that was. And that's how important getting those rights protected was, which they thought they did when James Madison fulfilled his promise, another Virginian, to get the Bill of Rights passed, until 2005, when our U.S. Supreme Court decided 5-4 to rewrite that Constitution.